Well, good evening, Spirit and Truth Sanctuary, and happy Wednesday to everyone. Hope you're having a joyful, peaceful, happy day today. Wonderful Wednesday to everybody. This is the day the Lord has made. We all came to rejoice, to be glad in it. Welcome to our Wednesday night study series. We are once again in Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth, which has been such a gift to us. It has been a traveler's companion. It has been a breath of fresh air on our journey of awakening to the self and to the soul. Do you know what being self-actualized means? What being self-awake means? What it really means is that we are not our thoughts. We are not the thinker of our thoughts. We are the divine observing presence that is aware that we have thoughts. We have the capacity to have memories. We have a data bank. We have the capacity to have beliefs, opinions, prejudices, biases, but we are none of those things. We are the observing presence of that. We can radically change our minds. We can change our beliefs. We can actually even empty out ourselves of beliefs and say, I don't have any beliefs. I'm kind of in that space the last decade or so, is that I don't have a lot of beliefs. I consider a lot of things. I do believe in love. I believe in equality. I believe in vibration, in connection, and interconnectedness. Other than that, I think everybody connects to God in their own way. We go within, so we don't go without. Certainly glad that you're joining us tonight. All right, so we are going to do our day of devotion. Today is April the 12th, and if you have your Fully Awake 365 devotion, grab it real quickly if you'd like to. Today's devotion is called The Gifts of Imperfection. We are once again in the month of April. April is the month of transformation. And as we watch the flowers budding and the birds chirping and the pollen hopefully almost on its way out. Maybe one more rain and we'll be done with the pollen, who knows. But this is a month of transformation. And so as we see the world, the natural world transforming around us, coming alive, there's also an inner transformation. There's a spiritual transformation that we can experience. Today's teaching is called The Gifts of Imperfection. I think we'll go back to page 4 and go ahead and grab our prayer of surrender for tonight. Come on, let's read our prayer of surrender. Spirit of truth, carry me where you will. Bring to me what you will. Take from me what you will. Awaken in me what you will. The Christ man is around me. The Christ mind is in me. The Christ power flows through me. And the Christ mystery exists as me. I believe it. I perceive it. And now I receive it. I am surrendered. Amen. And so it is. All right, let's jump back to April 12th. And we're in the gifts of imperfection. Let's read our affirmation at the very top. It says, today, I will bravely own my story. I will accept myself, my imperfections, and my uniqueness. I will find the courage to be vulnerable, honest, and open. So some of you remember we actually went through Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, I guess about a year ago, somewhere in there, a year and a half ago, something like that. And we discovered some amazing gifts that we thought were false, that we thought were failures, that in essence were being used, what we thought was an imperfection was being used as transportation into another level of connectivity, interconnectedness, and awakeness. And so let's read at the very top of the beginning of the devotion. It says, what if all things actually somehow work together for our good, even our imperfections? What about that? We all experience a binary of reality. We are spiritual beings made in the image and likeness of divinity, and yet we are in the material world in human form, learning, at times struggling, even falling and failing, to navigate our divinity in a way that creates the life we desire. Isn't that a beautiful reshaping of the working definition of sin that religion carries with it? Sin is somehow falling beneath the mark. Whose mark? God's mark? What is God's mark? Well, what God said to Moses? That's not what Jesus said. He said, you've heard of old, but I say. And so we have to be very cautious that we don't ascribe marks, lines of demarcation, goal setting, as if we know the mind of God. What we do know is we know our inner divinity. And so as we begin to embark on the awakening process to our own divine creativity, we really are sinning more against ourselves than we are against God. And so once we realize we're divine, not living in righteousness, peace, joy, happiness, fulfillment, connectedness, openness, those are not sins necessarily against God. They're sins against our own nature. And so God really doesn't care about you having a drink or seeing a movie or saying a cuss word or looking at another beautiful person. I don't think that God is all that upset about it. I think the universe judges us on what we think and how we translate and transmute our emotions into our bodies at a cellular level. And so I encourage you just to kind of redefine what this idea of sin is when we talk about imperfections. Embracing our missteps and mistakes along the path of awakening is how we recover quickly, heal open wounds, and evolve. Allowing ourselves to be mired in the swamp of shame and the sludge of guilt stunts our growth and hinders the realization of meaningful relationships. So, one key element to meaningful relationships is vulnerability. Being able to be vulnerable about your fears, your insecurities, your missteps, your mistakes, and that somehow brings us closer together. We become more human. We become more empathetic, more compassionate to one another, even in our interpersonal, familial friendships and relationships. It's important to be vulnerable with each other and to know that that's going to bring us a new level of closeness. All right, look at the second paragraph. When we own our stories, we tap into the courage to share our pain. Pain we have both endured and created. And if you don't realize that you've done both, welcome to reality. You have endured pain and you have created pain. That is what it is. And so as Jesus was on the cross, he said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. He could have easily said, Father, forgive me. I have done some things that I didn't know. I was trapped in culturalism, tribalism. We should all say that. Mother, Father, Spirit God, forgive those who hurt me. They're operating out of ignorance. And forgive me as I either ignorantly or sometimes in a lower vibration cause pain to others. We have been hurt and we have hurt people. If you don't think you've hurt someone, you maybe have caused the deepest hurt because you're still in denial about your missteps. We accept ourselves and also open a door to connect with others in a deep and purposeful way. Have you ever told an embarrassing story and had someone respond, I thought I was the only one? This type of connection is only made possible through vulnerability and authenticity. And in a sense, here we go, here it is, the mistakes that led to this openness operate as gifts of imperfection. So when we live in shame, secrecy, and sorrow, we live in a lie that disallows our true self, our organic vibration, to attract our tribe, our people, and our family. Doesn't that make a lot of sense? Yeah, one of the ways that you attract, your vibe attracts your tribe is when you become vulnerable, open, willing to connect. When we shy away, when we are always playing games with our role playing, we really don't attract our true circle of the people that we're supposed to be connected to. And so encourage you tonight to be vulnerable, to be open, to share your story, to heal from it as you see others healing from it, and to know that even in those missteps and mistakes, there are gifts of imperfection called closeness, vulnerability, empathy, compassion. Those are all wonderful gifts of imperfection. All right, very bottom, let's read our prayer together. Here we go. Authentic Spirit, grant me the courage to be vulnerable, the compassion to be empathetic, and the candor to connect. Amen. And so it is. I wrote that day of devotion because I taught Brene Brown's Gifts of Imperfection for probably a year. And it was a beautiful day, a beautiful writing. It was an easy organic writing. All right, we will connect again with our daily devotion, our Fully Awake 365 on Friday morning at 7 a.m. Looking forward to seeing everybody at that time. Welcome once again to Spirit and Truth Sanctuary. We are going to jump into Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth tonight. You can download your notes in the event description if you'd like to. And we encourage you to comment, ask questions. There's nothing that's out of bounds, whether they are opinions that agree with what is being taught or even dissenting voices. Sometimes we learn as much from those who disagree with us than from those who connect to the same vibration. And so you're welcome and encouraged to jump into a discussion tonight. Hopefully we'll learn as much from each other as we do from our reading tonight. Amen to that. All right. Take a big deep breath, if you will. Close those eyes for just a moment. As we take and give a breath, we are in celebration of the beginner's mind. We are in the awareness that faith comes by hearing and not by having heard. We are surrendered to the truth that we walk into the kingdom curiously and inquisitively as little children, refusing the mastery and embracing the mystery. We celebrate tonight the questions, the answers, and the questions again. We know that truth is a journey and not a destination. Holy Spirit, we allow you to guide us wherever you'd like to tonight. We clear out space now. We empty out preconditions. We empty out of indoctrinations and prejudices and prejudgments and culturalizations and all of the dogmas that we were raised with. And we allow Spirit to carry us into new and green, maybe even unfamiliar pastures, into the self and soul, the awakening to ourselves. We thank Spirit tonight for filling us until we want no more. Amen. And so it is. All right, we're going to jump into tonight's teaching. Last week, we talked about the collective and the individual pain body, that we both have an individual pain body and we are exposed to a collective pain body, the pain of history, the pain of man's inhumanity globally towards each other. And then we add unconsciously or maybe even subconsciously to that collective pain body with our own pain. When we choose not to heal from what we consider our story, when we choose not to, I'm going to say it, get over it and walk into love and peace and joy and know that the thing that happened to you is not who you are, however difficult the abuse, neglect, divorce, bankruptcy, abandonment accusations were, that is not who you are. Discrimination, prejudice, homophobia, xenophobia, misogyny, discrimination. You are not those things, and it's not just that we get over it, we get through it. We don't allow ourselves to only be our story. We are bigger than our story. We share our story, but we don't live in the pain, the heavy pain body of that story. If we do, then we actually contribute to the collective pain body because we see life, we experience life through the filters of pain instead of through the filter of all things working together for our good. That's kind of what we talked about last week. Tonight, week 37, we're going to talk about how the pain body renews itself. And so whether we call it the ego, whatever it is that you want to call it, ego, pain, story, role playing, it has a desire to continuously renew itself. One of the things that we have tapped into in this series is that we are bigger than our identifications. What does that mean? We're bigger than our possessions, our accomplishments, our careers, our thought forms. So we're even bigger than our physical form and our thought forms, our opinions. But watch this. We're bigger than our painful memories. You're bigger than a memory bank, than a series of experiences. And so it's in that framework that we begin to recognize and tap into a discovery of our own insanity. If we live in a vicious cycle of repeating pain over and over again, then we are not awake or aware of our own divine creativity. When we realize that we can tap into an awareness of our insanity, we can recognize dysfunction, that becomes the foundation, that becomes the groundwork for functionality and for a sane life that's full of happiness and joy. All right, the pain body and how it renews itself. The pain body is a semi-autonomous energy form that lives within most human beings. An entity made up of emotion. Remember the example? I am angry. I am sad. I am scared. I am none of those things. Those are emotions I'm experiencing. I am the awareness of those emotions. So we're able to step out and see I'm not the emotion. The pain body has its own primitive intelligence, not unlike a cunning animal, and its intelligence is directed primarily at its own survival. Whew. Like all life forms, it periodically needs to be fed, or it needs to feed, to take in new energy, and the food it requires to replenish itself consists of energy that is compatible with its own. Whew. So, if the pain body needs to be fed, it is compatible as far as survival. It has to find something that has a similar energy. It has to find more pain. It has to find ways to remind of pain. Here it is. Any emotionally painful experience can be used as food by the pain body. You ever had something very difficult happen to you and just you have all these little triggers that remind you of it? Or you see something, or you hear something, you drive somewhere, or you hear a song, or something that triggers the pain in you, really is that pain body desiring to stay alive. That's how it feeds itself. That's why it thrives on negative thinking as well as drama in relationships. Whew. The pain body is addicted to unhappiness. Have you ever seen somebody that's addicted to unhappiness? It's hard to laugh. It's hard to smile. It's hard to enjoy an entire day without going deep into the unhappiness, deep into the regression, deep into the painful experiences of our childhood. And oh my goodness, why were my parents so hateful or disapproving of me? Or why did this happen in my adult life? Why didn't I get this promotion? Why don't my coworkers like me? Why don't the members of my church like me? Why are they still going here? All of us have different things that we deal with, but that really is the pain body's intelligence trying to feed itself negative emotion to remain alive. It may be shocking when you realize for the first time that there is something within you that periodically seeks emotional negativity, that seeks unhappiness. Whew, can we just sit with that for a minute? Anybody have the courage to admit that that's a part of you? If you can't see it, you can't own it. If you can't own it, you can't recreate it. And so, do you ever just pick at somebody out of the blue for no reason? Has there been too much peace in your life for too many weeks or months, and then you just go off on somebody that really doesn't deserve it all that much? Yeah. Sometimes that ego, that pain body within us, it has to be recognized for what it is, and that it seeks negative energy. It doesn't like to be happy for long periods of time. Our inability or unwillingness, not that we don't have the capacity, but our unwillingness to recognize that something within us wants to be fed on negative energy keeps us feeding on negative energy in a oblivious way. It's just like we're making up things to be unhappy about because the pain body in us needs to feed on that energy. That's a lot to chew on, my goodness. Wow, that's a lot to swallow, isn't it? Are you brave enough to see that in yourself tonight? Oh no, I always want to be happy. I always want to be joyful. Next time you start a fight with somebody, next time you get into a spat with somebody for apparently no specific reason, ask yourself, is that my pain body seeking negative energy? Is that thing in me that hurts that needs to find compatible vibration? The first step in getting rid of that pain body is being able to recognize that it needs to feed and that there's a part of you that seeks negative energy sometimes. Whew, that's a lot, isn't it? All right, keep going. You need even more awareness to see it in yourself than to recognize it in another person. Once the unhappiness has taken you over, not only do you want an end to it, but you want to make others just as miserable as you are in order to feed on their negative emotional reactions. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I'm feeling painful. I'm feeling like I need some negative energy. I need to remember some hurtful things that have happened to me. Now I'm miserable and I want to make everybody else miserable because the pain body in me is feeding on their misery as well. I don't want to feed on their joy. I don't want to feed on their happiness. You ever seen a child who's just grumpy? Maybe they woke up from a nap or something and there's people in their face, ooh, boo, 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 googly, googly, whatever, and the child's like, will you get out of my face? I just woke up. Adults as well. All of us can kind of feel that way. And then some adults will just kind of I can see a smile. I see it behind there. And actually children would do like this. They'll hide the smile because they want to be grumpy. You know what? There's a grumpy child in all of us that doesn't want to be made happy sometimes. And our willingness, not our capacity, we all have the potentiality to see it, but our willingness to see it helps us to alleviate it a little bit more quickly. All right, keep coming. In most people, the pain body has a dormant and an active stage. Isn't that interesting? Think about viruses that lie dormant inside of us. Think about volcanoes all across the world that haven't erupted in hundreds of years. Think about the science fiction that we watch in movies. Mummies that can be brought back to life. Dinosaurs that can be brought back through the DNA of mosquitoes. All of this is our ideas, both fictional and non-fictional, around dormancy. Some things are resident within us that are lying dormant that occasionally go into an activated stage through triggers, through weather, through an image, through a memory of some sort. Yeah, they lie dormant for a while, and then all of a sudden they go immediately from dormancy into being activated. What is it that activates them? Keep coming. When it is dormant, you easily forget that you carry a heavy, dark cloud or a dormant volcano inside of you, depending on the energy field of your particular pain body. And all of us have a little different pain body. We all have a different story. How long it remains dormant varies from person to person. A few weeks is the most common, but it can be as short as a few days or as long as a few months. Interesting. In rare cases, the pain body can lie in hibernation for years before it gets triggered by some event. Let me tell you one of the pain bodies I've seen that can lie dormant, that I've witnessed lying dormant in others. Maybe I should be a little more curious about myself, but I don't have this specific pain body. But when people lose a family member at an early age, a mother, a father, a sibling, sometimes that pain body goes into hibernation for years. It's pushed down, pushed down, pushed down. All of a sudden it comes out and you don't expect it to be there. But it can become triggered by some unexpected event, and you think, wow, did I welcome this? Where is this coming from? Yeah, it's that pain body that's been in hibernation for the past 30 years, and it's finally coming back up. Interesting, huh? The pain body awakens from its dormancy when it gets hungry, when it's time for it to replenish itself. Alternatively, it may get triggered by any event at any time. The pain body that is ready to feed can use the most insignificant event as a trigger. Something somebody says or does, or even a thought. How many of you have seen the movie Father of the Bride? Have you guys seen that movie with Steve Martin, Martin Short? There are other key actors, I can't think of their names right now, but it's a great movie. And so Steve Martin is a very responsible father. He's planned his financial life, and he's kind of built a business from the ground up, given his heart and soul to it. And his oldest child, Annie, who we all fall in love with watching the movie, is getting married. And Annie and her mother just want this elaborate wedding, and they hire wedding directors and these expensive caterers and photographers and DJs. It's not all that different from any other wedding we go to, but they have swans and all just a lot of money is being spent. So the dad is struggling. He's struggling with losing his little girl. He wants her to still live at home with him. He is struggling with the financial ramifications of the wedding. He is struggling with the fiance that he doesn't really care for. Which dad really does care for their daughter's fiance? I hope that I can watch that movie and remember, come to myself if I'm acting crazy. Yeah. But these little things keep happening. The tuxedo he wants to wear doesn't fit him anymore. He's gained some weight, and it's blue anyway. The caterers are charging more money. More people show up than RSVP'd. The wedding directors are just giving more and more line items, more and more things that he has to pay for. And all of a sudden, I don't remember exactly what the trigger was. Oh, this is what it was. He went into a grocery store, and they were just going to cook hot dogs that night. Just a simple meal, hot dogs and buns. And for some reason, there were like either 8 or 6 or 10 hot dogs, but there was an odd number of buns that didn't match the number of hot dogs. And so he's like, why is this happening? Why can't there be as many hot dogs as there are buns? People should think about this. They should be more considerate of people's money. So he starts ripping open another bag of buns, and he's going to take 2 buns out of the other bag, put it into this bag, because he doesn't want to pay for another bag of hot dog buns. I think he ends up getting, the security guard has to tase him. He gets arrested. His wife and his daughter. What's that?
Best scene ever.
Best scene ever. His wife and daughter have to come get him out of jail, and they're like, you got arrested for trying to put 2 hot dog buns. Of course it wasn't about the hot dog buns. That was the trigger of him being nervous about losing his baby girl, of not liking the fiance, of being a financial planner who's watching part of his retirement go to this elaborate wedding. It was not about the hot dog buns. So think about this. Put yourself, let's all be a hot dog bun tonight. Will you all be a hot dog bun? Can we be a hot dog bun tonight? What does that mean? Sometimes when people get triggered and they go off on you, it's not about you. Yeah, it's just, you may have said something or done something or looked a certain way or played a song or responded or done something that triggered something in them that's not really about you. And so we can't always take it personally when people have pushed things down into a dormant or hibernation stage, and it gets triggered all of a sudden. It's okay. It's not always about you. Take ownership for what you do cause, but don't live in the guilt of having to deal with everybody's pain body. We all have different pain bodies, and that's okay. All right, here we go. Let's see. It may get triggered by an event at any time. The pain body that is ready to feed can use the most insignificant hot dog bun event as a trigger, something somebody says or does, or even a thought. All right, next paragraph says, if you live alone or there is nobody around at the time, the pain body will feed on your thoughts. Wow, look at that. And so if I don't have anybody to connect with vibration or to make them miserable so that we can all be miserable together, then I'll just stay here with my thoughts. I'll just keep feeding on these negative thoughts. Suddenly, your thinking becomes deeply negative. You were most likely unaware that just prior to the influx of negative thinking, a wave of emotion invaded your mind, as a dark and heavy mood as anxiety or even a fiery anger. Last paragraph. All thought is energy. There we go. All thought is vibration. All thought is frequency. All thought is energy. And the pain body is now feeding on the energy of your thoughts. But it cannot feed on just any thought. You don't need to be particularly sensitive to notice that a positive thought has a totally different feeling and tone than a negative one. Amen, somebody? It is the same energy, but it vibrates at a different frequency. Can we stop right there and just say energy is energy? Okay, it is neutral in some ways. Okay, just kind of like gravity. Gravity is neutral. It's not really for or against. It just is what it is, right? So energy can either be channeled positively or negatively. You ever seen how a battery works? A battery has 2 charges, a positive charge and a negative charge. It's not that the battery has is taking sides, it can use either charge, just like energy can. Energy can feed on negative emotion. It can also feed on a positive emotion. It is the same energy, but it vibrates at a different frequency. A happy, positive thought is indigestible to the pain body. It can't feed on it. It can't eat that. It can only feed on negative thoughts because only negative thoughts are compatible with its own energy field. That's a lot to chew on tonight. All right. So before we jump into the discussion, let's go back to the beginning of the teaching tonight, and let's muster up the courage if we can. Let's find it within ourselves, the ability to see that part of us that sometimes just makes something out of nothing, that desires to feed on negative energy, that pain body has been ignored for too many weeks. It needs to be fed, and it needs some negative energy to feed on. If you can be willing to see when that happens, maybe we'll be able to recognize when it's coming, and maybe treat it with something. Instead of treating it with negative energy or trying to make others miserable around you so you can feed on their energy, how about we feed on some meditation? How about you take a big deep breath, or take your dog for a walk, or turn on some beautiful music and just say, hey, I don't have to spiral into this. I can be bigger than my need to feed negative emotions from my past and my past pain. Amen, somebody? All right, let's talk tonight.
All right. Miss Mary shared, I remember hating weekends because my parents would go out on weekends and I hated being home alone without them. To this day, I have negative feelings on weekend nights and have to have the TV on at night to soothe those feelings.
Isn't that interesting, Mary? So, first of all, thank you for being vulnerable, sharing your story with us. But thank you for your recognition. Look at you. Yeah. So, you recognize where it came from. You actually kind of did your own regression, didn't you? You found it. You found that thing. Where does this come from? Okay. Comes from that. And now when I feel it coming on, instead of going into a deep, dark place, I watch a television show. I listen to music. I do something. I can relate with that, Mary. For a season of my life, I was living under quite a bit of stress and strain. I was having some difficulty even in my body. My heart was in arrhythmia. It was out of rhythm at times. And prayer just made me think about it more. Meditation made me get quiet so that I would remember it. I, Mary, turned on comical movies, ridiculous movies that made me go, what in the hell are these people doing? That's kind of how I got out of that need to feed that thing. And so isn't it interesting that, listen to this, Mary, that prayer can feed a pain body? Wow, would we ever have thought that growing up in religious circles, that prayer may be the most negative thing we can do at times? Yeah, because sometimes prayer is just rehearsing all of our worries, anxieties, fears, insecurities. Be still and know. Take a big deep breath. If the positive energy is not there, watch something, listen to something, turn on a comic, read a funny joke, watch some YouTube videos of people doing ridiculous things. Find a way to change the vibration. It sounds like you're aware of it, Mary, and you are the physician healing thyself. Thanks for sharing, Mary.
All right, we have a big one here, and I'm over here receiving from you already, Richard, so thank you for this. I might save this. I'll have to post Richard's comments out onto the other platforms as well, so you guys can maybe take this as well. He said, thoughts on how not to allow someone to use you to renew their negative pain body. Gave 3 options here. 1, learn to never take or overreact to another person's negative pain body behavior. 2, their pain body is really not about you.
Like it.
Which is what you said a minute ago. 3, encourage them to take personal responsibility for their negative pain body behavior that does not have anything to do with you. Wow.
Look at that. Look at 3 simple ways to be rubber and to let glue bounce off of us. That's good, Richard. I will share a story from a couple of weeks ago, Richard. We had someone visiting our spiritual community, and the individual got there early, and so I walked past. I didn't recognize the person, and so I spoke to them, and they kind of looked me up and down when I spoke to them, and so I said, "It's good to have you this morning. I hope you enjoy the service." And I just walked away. Immediately, I recognized a very negative energy. Okay, and so after the service, I kind of gave it one more shot. And I went to the individual and I said, "I hope you enjoyed today. We'd be glad to have you back anytime." He says, You're a very weird bunch." And that's all I needed to hear. I was like, okay. I gave him two shots. Probably shouldn't have given him a second shot at it, but he said it again. So then one of our other members, kind of minding my business, said, "Oh, Pastor, did you speak to so-and-so?" And I said, "I did, thank you." And they said, that wasn't good enough. They still were on me. "He's right there." And I said, "Thank you. I didn't see him standing right in front of me." And so I spoke again. But not only was there a negative energy that wasn't about me, it was about this person's religiosity or their own thing, Richard. Then someone that I care for wanted to make me go back into the energy again. And I was like, okay, yeah, I've already done that. Yeah, and so we have to be able to be aware of it, Richard, to not let others use us to feed on negative energy. I love those examples, Richard. Look at that, navigating your way into righteousness, peace, and joy. Thanks, Richard.
So Fred, I'm sure, is not the only one who has felt this way. Brother Fred shared, "I remember suppressing issues with shame or embarrassment of being a young parent of children and not being financially stable. I would have displaced anger."
Wow. Yeah, you're absolutely not the only one, Fred. Wow, thanks for sharing that. How many of us have had children in diapers and felt insecure? I don't think it's good to tell stories to try to one-up somebody else's pain, so I'm not telling this for that reason, Fred, but I felt insecure at times about things. I think financial instability and insecurity is one of my biggest insecurities. Whether it's growing up in a church with an enormous budget that can never be, an enormous monster budget that can never be satisfied, or even preaching a peculiar message that doesn't really encourage people to give out of fear. Either way, those are insecurities for me that I have to be aware of, and to know that I'm bigger than those insecurities and do the best I can to plan and be financially responsible. But I wanted to say about you, Fred, first of all, congratulations. You've shared this publicly, so I think this is okay to share, but Fred recently went through a series of interviews for a new position, got a promotion, and got a raise. Look at Fred. Go get that money. Get out there and get that money, man. But yeah, it's all along our lives. We have insecurities. I remember being a part of this facade of being part of one of the biggest churches in America, and Brandy and I going without paychecks, sometimes weeks in a row, and having two little ones in diapers. I mean, being like, I don't know what we're going to do here, but we have two little ones. We both can't keep working at this church if we're going to keep missing paychecks. And so now you know, Fred, why I try to manage things a certain way at Spirit and Truth. When people come up to me and say, "Pastor D, that's the greatest sermon I've ever heard. What's your vision?" My vision is to be at peace. Other than that, do you want to grow the church? Sure, but we're not building anything. We're not buying a bigger church. All that is coming from my need to be at peace. I don't need to conquer the world. I've been in that before. I don't need to feed that ego and that pride. I'd rather be at peace. But all of us have felt that at times, Fred. And so thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing the emotion of feeling angry or ashamed or guilty or whatever in some ways. Just because we don't have all the money that we always need doesn't mean that we're inadequate. It doesn't mean that we're less than. It means that we're human. We're feeling. It means that you're a good father. You're a good parent that wants to provide for your children. I think you've done a great job with that. Thanks for sharing, Fred.
I think you'll like this from Miss Laverne. She said, "Every once in a while, that negative energy tries to take hold of me. I put on the song Unstoppable by Sia and watch her do her thing. Brings good, positive energy and strength."
Look at that. Yeah, just a little brief meditation. You know, I love it that Laverne, that's your treatment, that's your meditation. Meditation isn't always Mane Padme Tsunami Volcano, whatever. It doesn't have. Everybody doesn't meditate the same. Laverne, I had an experience years ago speaking at an enlightened spiritual center, and people were trying to tell me exactly how to hold my hands, how to hold my neck, to dislodge the jaw, and to be completely comfortable when you are meditating. And I was like, I didn't leave religion to come back into religion. I didn't get delivered from religion for you guys to tell me how to connect to myself or to spirit. And a lady beside me was tending to my business. I was like, no, thank you. I appreciate it, but that's not how I connect. And so, yeah, if you connect through Sia's Unstoppable, do you, be you. Get, stay, and be happy. And don't let anybody tell you that that's not a good way for you to raise the vibration. I love that, Laverne. Thank you.
Phoenix shared, guilt, shame, and remorse are all low vibratory energies, and having a knee-jerk reaction in any situation can just result in the above. Be mindful of bringing on unnecessary emotions that attract similar experiences into existence.
Wow. Yeah, isn't that really the crux of the matter, Phoenix? And that is to be mindful to similar experiences. Yeah, they all kind of share the same thing. And isn't it interesting? There's a song, I think it's Billy Joel that sings the song. People try to tell you where to sleep, who to sleep with. He said, but either way, at some point, you wake up with yourself. And so be you, do you. Don't let anybody put their clothes on you. And so I appreciate your individuality, Phoenix. Thank you for sharing.
I think that's it. Let's see. Miss Cheryl sent us a comment. She was over on Miss Cheryl's over on live stream, but I think she lost power. But wanted to send us. She found another way to send us a comment. Let's see here. Just wanted to say that if humanity realized the negative impact that negative energy and pain body had on the autonomic nervous system in releasing cortisol that wreaks havoc on the body and causes diseases, maybe they would choose positive energy and positive choices. Great teaching this evening. Much love and gratitude.
There it is, Cheryl. Yeah, as within, so without. On earth as it is in heaven. As a man thinks, as a woman thinks, as a spirit thinks, so is it manifested on a cellular level. Wow, look at you bringing us some information about cortisol. That's actually a word that comes up quite a bit even in health and physical training circles. What eliminates cortisol in our body and taps us into endorphins and higher, more positive energies that create healthy bodies. That's great, Cheryl. Thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing that with us tonight. I did want to remind everybody that tomorrow at 11 a.m., our own Pastor Clarice Paulk will be inducted into the Martin Luther King Jr. Hall of Preachers at the Martin Luther King Jr. Chapel on the campus of Morehouse College. And we'll be there, I think, with our family and a few friends. And anybody who'd like to join us in person, you don't need an invitation. You're welcome to come and be a part of that. Bishop Pearson texted me today, and he's flying in just for the occasion. He's so sweet. I think he has another meeting as well, but he'll be there at the Morehouse MLK Chapel celebrating our Pastor Clarice tomorrow. I think she and I are the only mother-son tandem that in history that will be inducted into the Martin Luther King Jr. Hall of Preachers. And so we certainly celebrate her tomorrow. And we'd love for you to tap into it. I'm not sure exactly. We've been looking around, but we've looked on Facebook, we've looked on the website. I'm not sure if it's being live streamed. If we find out last minute, we'll try to send you, will try to send you some information as we're sitting in the chapel waiting for the ceremony to begin. Either way, we will try to take some good videos and some good pictures that we can show on Sunday. And so hopefully everybody will be able to be a part of that. All right, let's see. Any shouts out tonight?
Miss Irma said, take lots of pictures. We will. We'll make sure and take pictures and post that for you guys.
Okay,
Yeah, 1 second.
we'll take us some good pictures. As we're getting ready for our shouts out, our devotion is again Friday morning. That's at 7 a.m. It's always a fun Friday. Last Friday was a little bit more somber, and that's okay because we were honoring Good Friday and remembering the suffering of Jesus of Nazareth. This Friday will be a little bit different vibration. Doesn't mean that it's good or bad, but look forward to seeing everybody this Friday at 7 a.m. Thank you for a wonderful discussion. Thank you for sharing your vulnerabilities. Mary, Fred, so many of you that shared something from your own personal life. Laverne, certainly appreciate you guys. Phoenix, thank you guys. Cheryl, thank you for sharing with us tonight. All right, live stream, Facebook and YouTube. Miss Rosaline, Myrna, Emma, Callie, Pastor Fred and Mary, Doreen. I saw Doreen on Tuesday. Good to see your face, Doreen. Irma, Glenna, Pastor Gloria and Howard, Miss Cheryl, Anita, Cozy, one of my favorite peoples in the world. Dr. Ray Madison said, hello, wonderful family. Happy, wholesome, worthy, winning, well-balanced Wednesday. Look at you. Killing it, Dr. Ray Madison. Laverne, Ethel, Elaine, Ben and Vicky. Got to see my Ben and Vicky on Sunday. Jen, Ivy, and Margie. Pastor Don, hey Dad. Ma, Josephine, Toria. Reverend John Scott, what's up, Guru? Namaste. Minister Chris Williams, yay. Donald, Dinah, and Brendan Garrett. Sylvia Garrett. Sheila, Donnie, Tanya, Oprah Winfrey. Got to see Tanya as well Sunday. Dr. Rachel Banks, Dr. Rachel B. Richard Copeland, Phoenix Maddox. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We certainly send love and light out to everybody. We want to read our closing affirmation together. I know this is a long affirmation, but it's kind of encapsulates a lot of the teaching that we've done through the series. Come on, let's read together. Tonight, I am willing to recognize dysfunction. Whew, that's the beginning of functionality. If suffering is the normal state of humanity, I do not wish to be normal. If I've created God in my image, I will surrender to the truth that I am made in God's image. I am neither an external physical form nor any internal thought form. I am a spiritual being capable of experiencing physical form and the observing presence open to considering a diversity of thoughts. Considering, not believing. Considering thoughts. My present thoughts do not reflect my eternal capacity. What does that mean? Wherever I am right now is not necessarily my eternal capacity. My potential for awakening to self and spiritual transformation are endless. Amen. And so it is. We love you guys. Go in peace. Have a great night.